Well, hello, everybody. I'm Tom Grilk, the Executive Director of the Boston Athletic Association Boston Marathon. The Boston Marathon, outside of the Olympic Games, the world's oldest marathon, goes back to 1897. And I have a few minutes in which I want to try to tell you just one thing. It's a simple thing, and it's just this. In Boston, everybody owns the marathon. Okay, you might say, really? So what? How do you know that? Well, the so what is important. The so what is that unless one understands that everybody in Boston owns that ancient marathon, so much of the courage and the strength that we saw following the explosions at the finish line in 2013 don't make any sense. So much of what we came to know and understand and refer to as Boston Strong doesn't make any sense. And as to how do we see it, how do we know? We see it everywhere. We see it all over the place. We see it in some simple things, some things that we all have around the house, like trash. What you're seeing is the Boston Marathon course after the race, and usually this is about what it looks like. It's littered with paper cups that people have drunk from as they ran by, but that's not always true. 3 years ago, we had a very, very warm day. It was almost 90 degrees. It was dangerous. And when that race ended, the race course looked like a garbage can. It was covered with orange peels and banana peels and ice packs and prepared drinks and prepared gels and all manner of stuff that the people who live along the course, the people who have been there for decades, went out and bought, spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to get so that they could take care of their runners on their course. Why would they do that? Because in Boston, everyone owns the marathon. And we see it in some other things, like garden hoses. Those same people that live along the course that have been there all that time every year on Patriots' Day, Marathon Monday, the day that the race is run every year, make it opening day for the garden hoses, and they drag them out to the curbstone, and as the runners come by, they give them a little refreshing spritzer, a little bit of good cheer, so that they can take care of their runners on their course. And why do they do it? Because in Boston, everyone owns the marathon. And then, in April of 2013, when the horror came, when two explosions rocked the finish area, and smoke and fear filled that area, what did people do? They ran toward those explosions. They ran toward those bombs, saving countless lives, potentially at the risk of their own. Why would anybody do that? Because in Boston, everyone owns the marathon. And we saw numerous acts of selfless personal kindness that took place. What you're looking at now is a marathon finisher's medal. The Boston Marathon is the only marathon in the world, outside of the Olympic Games, that you have to qualify for to get into it. And it is, as we say in Boston, wicked hard to do. It's not easy. So most people try, and a lot of them fail. I know I tried and failed on multiple occasions before I finally kind of made it. But for people to qualify and then come and run and finish and get that medal is a big, big deal for them. And on that horrible day when the explosion took place, and then the next explosion, the finish line became a crime scene. 5,633 people got stopped. They couldn't continue, they couldn't come to the finish. And eventually, many of them straggled in toward the finish area and met workers of the Boston Athletic Association, workers, volunteers, who really put on the race, and many of them were devastated. They said, I couldn't get there. I couldn't get to the finish. I couldn't cross the line. I couldn't get my medal. And so what did those workers do? Well, they said, hang on, wait a minute. No, wait. And they came up with an improvised finish line and put it down and had the runners step across. And as they stepped across, a medal was put around their neck, and they were told, you did it. you finish the marathon. You can imagine the range of emotions that engendered, from tears to exhilaration to some combination of everything in between. And for those workers, the people who came up with that in an instant, how? Why did they do that? Because in Boston, everyone owns the marathon. And here's another medal. This one's different. This is what you get for winning. In that awful year of 2013, when the bombs went off, Lalisa Desisa from Ethiopia came and was the men's champion. And he won this medal. Only about 100 men have ever won one of these things. And 2 months later, Desisa came back from Ethiopia to give this medal to the people of Boston. Gave it to Mayor Menino. And he did it because he wanted to show solidarity with the people of Boston. He wanted to be part of that strength and that resilience. Why would he do that? Because in Boston, no matter where you're from, everybody owns the marathon. And not just in bad times, but also in good times. This year, Meb Keflezighi came and ran. Meb Keflezighi from California, a U.S. citizen by choice, who came here as a small child from war-torn Eritrea and became a runner. And on that day, in April of this year, in 2014, as Meb ran carrying the emotions, the hopes of a city, a nation, a world of runners, when he crossed that finish line with that spirit of exaltation that you can see, we all shared that too. And why? Well, because in Boston, everyone owns the marathon, all of it, the bad and the good. Oh, and then, of course, the One Fund, right? The miracle of the One Fund. $80 million poured in from around the world from people who had to do something for those who had been so profoundly affected by those bombs in April of 2013. Why did they do that? Because in Boston and around the world, everybody owns the marathon. So back to the so what. So what? What does it mean to those of us that own this thing? What it means is that we carry on. It means that we continue that spirit, that engagement, that ownership. It means that we perpetuate that spirit, all of us. And it means that on that same street, the races will continue. With the Boston Marathon finish in the background, people will run, kids will run. This picture is from April of 2014, this year. That spirit will continue in kids, and it'll continue here. In the picture, the mayor of the city of Boston, Mayor Barty Walsh, out there to hold the tape for a boy who is anchoring his team to victory in the relay challenge among school children. You see it, Mayor Walsh, and you see it in the face of the boy. The boy is Henry Richard. His 8-year-old brother, Martin, died a year earlier when that bomb went off. But Henry carries on. So does his sister and his mom and his dad, because they, like so many others, are the strong in Boston Strong. And you can follow them with the Martin Richard Foundation at teammr8.org, the great work they're doing to carry on little Martin's message. No more hurting people. Peace. They'll show us the way, they will lead us, and we will work to continue that spirit. We will keep all of that going, not simply because it's who we are, but because in Boston, everyone owns the marathon. See you out in the roads.